Yo, what up, Compodres? Welcome back to another action-packed episode. It is your host with the most from the West Coast, SB Press, reporting live from Mastermind Media. This time to my right, Ilson himself.
Yep.
And also to my right, Rizad and Hizat.
How you guys doing?
All right, CB in the place to be. Cisco, welcome on. Mark with the Mastermind running around somewhere. I don't know where he's going. Veronica, here in spirit. Appreciate you. But just have to say this. We got a very, very special guest in the house today, ladies and gentlemen. He does not need an announcement, but I'm still going to announce him anyways.
There we go.
All right. So he is a host for the Odd Couple podcast. Also a professional professor at the University of Southern California. And not just my friend, not just a big brother, but my mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get it up for Rob Parker, please.
Wow.
Yes, yes. Thank you for being here, brother.
So good to be here with you guys.
Thank you.
For real.
I'm glad we're long enough we can do
That's
that.
right.
Yeah,
We got it.
And compadres like that, let's go.
Let's go.
I need all the wins, yeah. Ain't no L's, I gotta get it. No.
Joe, I'm gonna do this is for you. Call me, we'll talk about dogs, daughters, and coffee. Call me.
You know what? That is a perfect segue into my verse. I've been following you on Instagram for a long time. I see the Jordan sale.
Yes, I'm selling Jordans like crazy now.
So is this a new year, new me, or is it just cleaning out the closet?
Cleaning out the closet.
Gotcha.
I got like, you know, you look in your closet and you go, these are like, I got 12 pair of Jordans that I haven't taken out the box. Like I'll just, people know I'm into Jordans. So a lot of times they'll just send them to me and then I'll pay them or whatever. They'll just get them for me. So I had all these sneakers and I just said to Preston that I just got the new Travis Scott's Phantom, the black on black, which are beautiful. So I'm like, dude, I don't need all of these sneakers. If I'm going to have these, I need to get rid of some of them. So I just sell them at cost. I'm not like trying to.
What size are you?
11. Damn. Yeah, I know. Everybody says that.
I'm a 13, bro. So look,
The struggle is real for him.
Yeah.
I just got these not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I can't find 13s at all.
I'm an 11, which you could get everything.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, I mean,
that's why I was hoping you said 13. I'll take a couple off your hands. I love them.
Yeah, because I got a boy who has a shoe store, Shoe Pugs out there. You know, shoes is your drugs. Hit up Shoe Pugs.
There it is.
They carry everything, but unfortunately for Joe, he was looking at the stuff online. He's like, man, they ain't got nothing for me. I like this, but no 13.
No 13, everything probably.
I mean, they know when we were down in Hollywood and I walked into, what was it, Foot Locker or something. I walked in and I walked in, the dude was kind of looking at us a little weird. I go, hey man, if you got a 13 and a Jordan I like, I'm buying it. I walked up there, I looked at the shelf, I just want cement like that, and he looked at me,
he had it.
He didn't. Yeah. He didn't. No, and then he's trying to give me an El Segundo.
No, right.
Yeah. Big failure there.
Yes, it was.
Man, so cool, man. Let's start from the beginning, Rob.
Let's go ahead and take it from the top.
Yeah, man,
all right.
definitely.
All right.
Queens, New York, right?
Jamaica, Queens. Now you got to remember, New York, Queens has 2.2 million people. It's too big to just say you're from Queens.
Right.
When you're from New York, you have to say what neighborhood you're from.
Gotcha.
Because it's just too big.
Gotcha.
Same thing. People outside of, if I meet you and I'm from Brooklyn and I meet you outside of New York, I just say I'm from Brooklyn because you won't know the neighborhoods.
Right.
But if I meet you in New York, I'm going to say I'm from Bensonhurst. Do you see what I'm saying?
That's from Flatbush.
I'm from Flatbush.
Yeah,
Right. That's why you hear the
Right.
different neighborhoods because it's just too big. It's too many people. And the thing about New York, which is crazy, is you could walk around for days and never run into anybody you know, which is, unbelievable.
So many boroughs.
I'm serious. It's like if you're outside, you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
But if you're just like in New York, you could just for days and not run into anybody. So
do you like that? Then I'm assuming.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it was, but here's a story about that. So I'm covering the Cincinnati Reds for the Cincinnati Enquirer. It's my first trip back to New York. After getting this job, we were in Philadelphia covering the Phillies. It's me and two other beat writers, who cover the team.
Right.
So you don't fly from Philadelphia to New York. You take the train. It's an hour and 15 or 20 minutes. Nobody fly. It doesn't make sense to fly. So we're on the train. And they're, kidding me. And they're like, man, wait till you get back to New York. All your fans, all these people going to be, saying, hey, Rob, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, dude, New York? I said, what are you talking about? I said, you know how big New York is? So I swear to you, we come up the platform, up the escalator from the train, and the first guy we see says, hey, Rob Parker, what's going on? And they looked at me and was like,
surprise.
Was that a plan? I was like,
It wasn't a plan.
New York is weird like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's funny, man.
Yeah, you definitely learn how to properly walk in New York because they'll bump you out the way if you're too slow.
Oh, you know that.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely. That's definitely one. First African-American sports columnist, Detroit Press, 1993. And I grew up in Michigan, man, so I was around, and
right.
You had a big name in my family stake, brother. So can you tell us a little bit about that time and what it was like?
I've been doing this for 37 years.
Yes, yesterday.
I started
anniversary, right?
Anniversary. It was January 6th, 1986, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And I covered high school track, right. And I only worked there for about 5 months. Rocket and Quadri Ishmael were the big track stars in Wilkes-Barre, and I covered them. But to get that job in Detroit, and this is a true story again.
Yeah,
yes,
because they don't sound true. Yeah. But I was covering the Knicks for the Daily News, and I'm in the car with 2 other beat writers. Because when you do this job, you hang around with the other guys because that's nobody else has your schedule. Right. Nobody's working all nights, traveling, free on a Tuesday when nobody else.
It's like being a bartender working the restaurant.
Right,
business.
you know what I mean? Right. So you hang out with other guys who do what you do.
Yeah.
Right. So we're all in the car. We're driving from the Detroit airport, which is in the suburbs, past the city of Detroit, and then to the other suburbs where the Palace of Auburn Hills was in the suburbs. So we're driving, and we're just. Detroit is off to the right as we're driving. I'm in the back seat and the 2 other writers. And I swear to you, out of nowhere, I just say to them out loud, I would never want to live here. Oh my God. Out of nowhere, like unprovoked everything. I just said, I would never want to live here. Oh my God.
That's for y'all.
All right. And then... So then I'm in Cincinnati. I'm covering the Reds, and they call me and say, "Hey, we got your name. You were recommended. We have a columnist job at the Detroit Free Press." So I really didn't want to leave Cincinnati. I love baseball. I'm a Hall of Fame voter. I was like, this job is awesome. You travel all over the country. It is. If you love baseball, it's the greatest job.
You see how he just breezed over that? I'm a Hall of Fame voter.
I'm just saying.
That's
how awesome is that, man?
And that's my prized possession on this earth. It's okay, awesome, so I didn't really want the job, but I was like, I need to go on the interview because maybe I don't. It's not now, but it's a big deal for them to even consider you. I was at that time 29 years old. Right. And I was like, yeah, I need to go on the interview because it's nice of them to reach out. Back then, a top 10 newspaper, which the Free Press was, hiring a 29-year-old columnist I'm jumping ahead of the line.
Right.
So I'm like, I need to go. So I go up there with the whole intentions, I'm not going. So I'm just gonna go meet the people. I'm gonna go eat on their dime. I'll sleep in a nice hotel and fly back.
Eat on their dime. For sure. I love that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
stick together.
Right. So I go and I'm like, after I start talking to him, I'm like, I think I want this job.
Right.
I was like, this would be awesome, to have, because I grew up in New York where, reading newspapers, and my favorite TV show was The Odd Couple.
Yes.
So it was Jack Klugman, Tony Randall. That's a classic television show.
Time
for people.
Right.
And you guys, if you guys don't know or people watching, go Google it. But the TV show one that was in the 70s, sloppy sports writer, a finicky, clean photographer. They're both divorced. They share an apartment, and they drive each other crazy. Okay, so I used to watch that show, and I was like, "That's the job I want." Jack Klugman has the ultimate job. You cover sports. You eat for free. You travel the country. Again, eating for free. And all that. So I'm like, man, that's a great job.
Right.
And then push back a little bit. So I'm in second grade, which is 7 years old. And this is unbelievable when I even think about it. But I had a teacher named Miss Noble. Second grade, she must have been in her early 20s, her first teaching job, second grade. You know, kids are crazy. She pulls me aside one day and she says to me, she looks me straight. I could still see her and hear her words to this day. And now I was 7 years old. And she said, Robert, when you grow up, you should be a writer. You're an outstanding writer. Can you imagine a teacher identifying you? That's how powerful. I tell people all the time, like when you deal with kids, if you tell a kid that they're smart and they can do anything, that goes in. If you tell a kid they're stupid and an idiot and an F up,
right.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like
You manifest
or you're
that out of that.
unattractive or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You've seen it. Some girls have the ultimate confidence because in their house, their dad or you know what I mean? They gave them that confidence. You're beautiful, you're smart, and nobody can tell them different.
Yeah.
Because that's all they ever heard. And so from that teacher to my head, I always wanted to play first base for the Mets. That was my dream growing up. I love baseball, so I wanted to play. And so early on, I realized, okay, I'm not that good. Okay, you know, you kind of come to realize
We all do, right?
I'm not that good. I'm not going to make it to the major leagues. Okay,
Absolutely.
It happens.
so I said, well, what could I do to combine sports and the writing? And at that time, I was 9 years old, reading 3 newspapers a day. So I was one of those kids, three newspapers a day. We always had a paper in our house. And I used to read the Daily News in the morning on the bus to school. And then in the afternoon was the New York Post when it was an afternoon paper. So I would come home on the bus, read the New York Post on the way home. And then I had a paper route. We had a local paper, the Long Island Press, and I used to deliver it. I would read the sports section first and then go and deliver the papers all over the neighborhood. So those were like the foundation of how I got interested in all that. But to get back to Detroit, so I want the job. I get hired, and I didn't realize it when they hired me. But at that time, the Free Press was 106 years old. I'm fuzzing on over 100 years old.
Absolutely.
First time they ever had a black sports columnist in the paper's history.
That's right.
That's
And that was
iconic.
to me. That's still the greatest job. And I've done a lot of great things and had a lot of great jobs, but that to me is the most meaningful job and thing I'm most proud of. And then the other part is it's one thing to get the job, but when the city and the people embrace you as theirs,
Exactly.
like that was
Right.
the other thing.
Yes.
Like I would come, like I covered every Lions game for almost 20 years. So I would come home through the airport, and I don't care who they were. Either they were waiting for a plane, either they were sweeping up, either they were making food or whatever job, security, they would say, yo, Rob, welcome home. I'm glad you ripped the Lions because they, you know,
That was my point.
That's what they-
He was so unbiased.
Yeah.
My dad
I would
loved him. He was
kill
like,
them.
It was
Honest truth coming from
Absolutely.
Rob,
But
for
just also
sure.
think it's ironic because you said you started your career in '86 and you said you were a Mets fan
Right.
and you played first base. And to go ahead and cover that with was it 86 or 88 when they won?
86.
That's right. I thought 86.
I'm a Yankees fan, so I remember that.
But don't you think that's ironic? That's when you started your career and you played first base, and then to write about the Bill Buckner play.
Right. You know what? It was.
So
You know
cool.
that's amazing to me,
To
man.
be 22 and then cover your first World Series.
With the team you love, right?
Right, with the team I grew up with.
Right.
And it was actually, it worked out perfect because, you know, you have to shed that fandom.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I was right at that age, so I got to see the team that I grew up and loved win. And then after that, I could become the sports writer who
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I don't care if they win or lose.
Nice.
Well, they haven't won since.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It has been a long time, but that was an awesome moment, and I can remember I was at Game 6, and the ball going on to Bill Buckner's legs. But guess how I got there? So there was a Sunday sports editor. His name was Mike Newgren. Now you got to remember, I'm 22, my first year at the paper. I started on June 2nd, so this is October. I'm only been there 4 or 5 months.
Right.
Young whippersnapper.
Right. They used to call me the kid.
Yeah.
The
You saw this
Yeah.
gray hair? They used to call me the kid. So,
The fro.
so I'm like, so they have tickets in the sports department. We have season tickets, so
Right.
they have tickets for the World Series. So they say the sports editors, the late great Vic Ziegel, who was an instrumental in hiring me, him, Jim Wilsey, and another woman named Sharon Rosenhaus, who they all had confidence in hiring a 22-year-old kid 5 months out of college. Really, like that just doesn't happen. But anyway, so they had 2 tickets. And they go, Rob, we got 2 tickets for you for Game 7. So I'm like, oh my God. I'm like not expecting anything. They're giving out tickets to everybody else. I'm not expecting tickets at all.
Right.
Got 2 tickets for you for Game 7. So the Sunday Sports Editors guy named Mike Newgren. And I'm in the room, like and he starts to go off. How the hell does he get 2 tickets to Game 7? He just got here. Now he has 2 tickets. They gave him 2.
What a hater.
Mouthpiece was
But
on
he's
100.
but I'm right. But I'm in the room and I'm like, I didn't know what to say, so I said, Mike, you could have the Game 7 ticket. I'll take Game 6. I mean, if that's whatever. So he's like, yeah, give me Game 7.
And he gave you Game 6.
And I got Game 6.
So did you tell him how you like them apples?
So I wound up going to one of the most iconic games in baseball
ever.
That's how I got there.
Ever.
History in the making.
I mean, that might be one of the biggest plays.
Can you believe that?
In MLB history. That's
That was a humble handoff for
so
you.
cool.
And I was going to say, the other thing in the growing up in New York, I was a shoe salesman. I started as a stock boy.
Gotcha.
For young people think that everything happens overnight, you make a lot of money. I was making $2.75 an hour. I would work 10 hours and bring home $21 and think I was like I was doing something.
Right.
But just for people to understand, like leather sneakers, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, the old one,
Right.
they cost $29 back then. So see, you're making 21. Sounds like there's no money, but sneakers didn't cost $200. They cost $29, and people thought it was a lot. But I was also one of those guys. I was so focused in on sports, and so my boss, a guy named Shelly Zimmerman, he understood early on like what I wanted to do in my career and all that, and I had a great relationship with that business and with Shelly. So here I am, a 16-year-old kid, and when you work at a mall. It was the Queens Center Mall on Queens Boulevard. Yep. You got to work on the weekends or Sundays or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so I'm so into football. I say, Shelly, I'll work every Sunday for you except the 16 Sundays that this NFL. How many 16-year-old kids?
I'm taking the whole season off.
September
The whole season of
September to December, I don't work on
I'm not
Sundays.
working.
Whatever. He went along with it.
Nah.
He did was like, what, dude, get out of here. He's like, okay, I get it. When I was doing freelance writing for papers in Connecticut, they would call me last minute sometime and say, we need you to cover a football game. I'm on the schedule at the shoe store. Call Shelly. Man, this ain't your life, your career. Go write that story.
That's awesome.
We'll get somebody else for you.
Right.
And then, so when I got hired and came back at the Daily News, they would need help during the holidays. So here I am, 22, 23, making good money, and all that.
Yeah.
And I would go back and work in the shoe store for them just for those weekends for the holiday. And people would go like, what are you doing? What are you doing at the shoe store?
Did you feel like that was a give back for all the Sundays you asked for?
Absolutely, because they were good to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can help them and just work a couple weekends when I'm not writing or whatever. And I was a young guy, so I did it. And I always respected them for giving me to understanding and not like making me choose between what was going to be my career and the job and the money I needed. You know what I mean? To get through. Mm-hmm. So they were really good people there. But
Absolutely.
It was a Stride Right shoe store.
As a young bull, definitely. Right. I guess that's such a good segue, man.
I was gonna say,
you're a professional at this, definitely.
Keeping it on sneakers, what was the sneaker that got you into the game? What was that first sneaker for you that made you turn to a shoe head?
It's a good question. Trying to remember where I went crazy. because it's always it's the Jordans. I just talked about my first pair of leather sneakers were the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's. I was in high school. You don't even know what that was like. I want you to know for real. You're a young guy. When we got leather, we wore Pro-Keds and canvas.
Right.
Like seriously, we used to get sneakers from the grocery store. Like you would buy your. I'm not even kidding you. Like it was no big deal. They would buy you sneakers from the grocery store. It'd be a bin, and you look through it and find your size. To wear a pair of leather sneakers was the biggest deal in the world. And when I got my sister. Because my parents they were like $29. Are you crazy? Right. Like, I'm not buying, My sister had a job. My older sister, Marianne, she had a job, her own job. And one Friday after payday, she came home with a pair of sneakers for me. I'll never forget that. So that was the first leather pair. But it was really the Jordans. And I would say, I always want to forget the name of them. They're all black 5s, but they're really heavy. They're almost like boots. Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
Raging Bull 5, the black ones, or the Oreo 5?
No, not the Oreo, the other one.
But the Raging Bull
but
black
you know what?
5.
Yeah,
and it's
a heavy
brick. The back, it's
right.
a brick. Yeah,
it's like a really heavy
I remember
black
that one shoe.
But it's a beautiful shoe, and that's the one we were talking before the show. I said I'm gonna pare down about 6 or 7 pair, but that pair I still have, and we'll never give that up. It looks like it's real heavy and hard, but it's not actually. It's actually a really comfortable shoe. It just has that boot-like feel to it, but it's great. It's all black. It's nothing special, and you could wear those with anything and forever. So that was it. And now I'm really into the Travis Scotts. The ones high tops and the other black and red ones, those aren't really comfortable. They're not. To do more than just walk around for a couple hours in.
Right.
The Travis Scotts are very comfortable. The ones low top. I have I have all 3 of them. The white, the cream,
the mocha.
The mocha I have, the cream,
and then just the black on black.
And now I just got the black on black Phantoms, which are just tremendous. So those are 3 that I'm definitely. So I'm kind of into that, being a little older. Something that I could be casual with and you can wear with anything. So
that's why I wear those ones. Everyone knows it's the most comfortable shoe I ever wore ever. And not to compare and contrast, but I still remember in 17, I made a bunch of residual money from acting. My mom wasn't buying that shit when I was young. So every time I got a check, I was going to WSS. You went with me one time, my mom. And we're in 13. You got anything in the back?
Right.
Bring something out.
Bring them out. Give them.
Let's go every time. So I can relate to that. I think everyone in this room.
My big first pair was the Keem, the Spalding's Keem Olajuwon.
Talked about that the other day.
Yeah, we did have that on the podcast. So
definitely
my mom wasn't affording any of that stuff. But the Travis Scotts are so nice.
They really are. And they're really comfortable. Nice. They look good and they're comfortable.
Everybody thinks they're hype beasts, but I don't think so. I love them, man.
Yeah, I don't look at it like that. And the thing that's like what I had to get used to was going to the airports and the kids, like when they see them they just go crazy. They go crazy. Like I can see them in the corner of my eye going, like tapping their dad or their mom. They're like, I need those. They're like, and then they'll come up to me sometime and go, I've never seen them in person. I've only seen them. You don't even realize that. They're like, I've never seen them in person. I've only seen them on Instagram or other people wearing them. I've never seen them. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been an SB guy forever. It goes into it.
It goes into it. SB press, I love it.
But I will say, for me, my first Jordan, 1985 is when I turned 13.
Okay.
My dad had gave them to me when he originally got them. When they got released.
Right.
And unfortunately, those got lost in storage.
Oh,
so
man.
I don't even want to go down that road of how much they're worth and everything like that. But they are out of here. And out of sight, out of mind for me.
So the SB Dunks, though, is that?
That's my thing now.
Right.
Because of the loss of the Jordan. So I just been with SB since I want to say 16, 17.
Okay. Well, I got the Jackie Robinsons.
Yes.
And those I wore those at the All-Star game.
Wow.
And
did everybody just was like
everybody looked at them because
right?
And it was funny, we were interviewing and players who, again, you think they'll be tunnel vision and they're not paying attention to. I walk up, they're like, oh, like all the young players, they're like, dude, they're like, I got to get a pair, or we're getting them, or how did you get a pair, and all that. And it was great. I was in Cincinnati. That's how I got a pair. I was in Cincinnati, and I bought some other sneakers. And the guy was real nice, a place called Unheard Of in Cincinnati. And he was just like, hey, I bought a pair of sneakers, went back to my room, and he had my Instagram, and then I saw a message from him. He's like, you interested in the Jackie Rock? I'm like, interested. Say that again. I said, I'll be right there. Hey. You got size 11, And
how hard is it vetting out those people, though? Because I'm sure there's a million people in your DMs and always trying to.
You know what? I'd rather not that I think I met some people who have been cool. You know what I mean? And different stuff. But a lot of it is meeting people. I know another guy in Miami who I met in person, and then you just get a feel for them.
Right.
And then we stay in touch, and then stuff comes up or whatever. So I kind of like the personal. Meeting somebody and getting a feel for them.
Right. Because people hit me in my DM and I'm trying to vet them like, is this serious or is this right or is this not? Or,
right. You never know.
It's all that robot game. Right? We've talked about it on many pods before, and I can't stand it. I mean, like I said before, the whole thing, especially with women.
Right.
Well, how old are you? And they'll say 31, and then I'll say like I'm 85 because I know it's a robot. It just goes through this game, and it's just you don't know who you're meeting, like you said, and I don't like it.
Shadow ban.
I can't. No,
I was going to save this for later, but I want to ask you about the new cancel culture, and then I want to kind of two-part this: Draymond Green, new media versus old media.
Okay.
So
right. All right. First of all, cancel culture is not new. I think it's the biggest overblown thing that's ever been out there. Gotcha. Okay, and I'm gonna give everybody, go do your own research and go Google Anita Bryant. Anita Bryant was the spokesperson for Tropicana orange juice.
Okay.
She was a big time on every commercial for Tropicana orange juice growing up in the 70s.
Right on.
So go do her story, go research who she is and what happened. And so she decided on her own time to go to anti-gay rallies or whatever, and Tropicana Orange Juice fired her. And their statement was very simple. We are here to sell orange juice to everybody.
Exactly.
So people make this, you can't say what, no. You can't say what you want to say. You can say whatever you want. But if you represent me or my company and that's not what we're with, it's not about, it's like, it's fine. You can say whatever you want, but we just don't need you here.
Right. Doing. Yeah.
Do you like?
He simplified that so it's so simple. What he said.
That's really what it is. Yeah. Do you remember Fuzzy Zeller was? He was with Kmart. He had a big endorsement deal. So he decides that he's going to make a joke and say that they're going to start serving fried chicken and collard greens.
Yeah.
Right. But the Masters. This didn't happen in 2020.
I remember the whole thing,
okay?
But I'm not disagreeing with you. But the funny thing to me about that whole thing is Fuzzy's got a drink in his hand. It's only professional sport that they're drinking afterwards. We know about Daly and everything else.
But people make it like this is new.
Right.
And Kmart was like, no. This is not what we want to do. Right. And people don't also understand. I say it all the time. I argue with people. Freedom of speech is only protected. You're only protected that you can rip the government, you can rip the president, and nobody's going to knock on your door and arrest you and put you in a cell. That's it. There are consequences for everything else you say.
Yep.
So this whole idea, and people, I don't know about you, but if I go to a restaurant and they don't treat me right or something, I'm not going back there. If you want to call that cancel, no, I want to be treated right.
Exactly.
Okay? So if I go to a restaurant and you don't treat me right, I'm not going back. And so if I'm a consumer or I used to watch your movies or whatever, and I feel like, oh no, I'm not feeling you or I'm not with that or whatever you're with, I can say I don't want to watch your movies anymore, or you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
I really, but I'll tell you one, and this is a true story. When Tiger Woods went on Oprah or whatever and came up with the Cablasion, what was that term?
Cablasion.
Something like that, right?
Black, Asian, Caucasian.
Yeah,
okay.
I remember,
I swear to you, I grabbed all of my Tiger Woods stuff up, put it in a box, and took it to the Salvation Army that day. And I said, I'm good.
That says a lot.
I'm good. Like, that's fine. If you want to come up with some name to make for a black guy to look in the mirror, see black skin, and call himself something else, to me, I'm good.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not a great golfer, and I admire all that, but I'm good.
Right.
And if you want to call that, is that cancel culture?
Yeah.
That's just me deciding I don't want to wear that stuff anymore.
Right.
And I know you very well, and I've heard you speak many times, and I've heard you talk about your honeymoon and watching Tiger. And
Oh, my honeymoon.
Yes.
I got married. He caused my divorce. You know, I mean,
yes, he did. Yeah. Go ahead, let him know.
We were in Japan. Here's this young black guy destroying Augusta, and we're sitting there on the bed, me and my wife, watching the Masters. I was supposed to be sealing the deal. You know what I mean? I'm watching Tiger Woods. I'm like, oh my God.
He definitely canceled that. Definitely.
My goodness.
My divorce.
I'm dying over here, bro.
You owe him, Tiger. You owe
And
him.
what was the other part you asked? I know you said
The second part was I was just asking about like old media versus new
Right.
media. Draymond's whole, you know.
It's Draymond, all fakes and phonies.
Right.
And I'm telling you guys, do not. First of all, what they want to do is they want to play and cover themselves. What they want to do is cover each other's behind. What they want to do is, I can't even remember, like, if you listen to some of those interviews, and I'm not knocking all athletes. I've worked with a lot of guys. Some of them are very good, and they do Charles Barkley's one of the best.
Yes,
because he doesn't pull any punches, and he's not in bed with everybody.
Right, agreed.
And that's why all the players hate him. He knows he's doing his job.
Basically, honest Abe.
Honest.
Honest.
And a lot of these guys are phony. And they don't push back on any questions. Whatever people say, they just kind of go along with the flow or whatever's happening. And that's not what people want. People want honesty, even fans. And I'll give you the example. All these leagues and teams have these team websites. DallasMavericks.com. Nobody goes there for your information. It's owned by the team. What do you think they're going to put on that site?
Team-friendly information.
It's
They're
PR.
trying to sell tickets.
Yeah.
That's all they're trying to do is
You
sell
think
tickets.
if the coach if Jason Kidd does a bad job, there's a story on there saying that he should be fired or he blew the game?
Absolutely
Dude,
not.
you'll never read that. So why would you take any time, invest any interest in that?
Right.
And the same thing when it comes to these players. Dude, they're in bed with each other, all of them. They are friendly because they went to the same they played in the same AAU. They went to the same college. They have the same agent. Their wives are friends. Dude, they can't be objective. And then here's the other one. Oh, you guys don't know because you never played in the NBA. You can't critique me. Okay, that was their excuse. Then the excuse was when Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaq, now they're old men who are jealous of them because they're critiquing them. So which one is it? Is it do you have to play in the league in order to be able to talk about the game or not? And then for them, they think that they're journalists because some producer writes the questions for them and they interview each other. Do you remember the show on NBA TV called, what was it, Players Only?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It got canceled. I wonder why, because there was nothing in it. Okay?
Yeah.
And they were sitting around, I don't want to say it, but they were sitting around in a circle.
Kumbaya, my lord.
They were in a circle.
That's hilarious, man.
And people, you would say, oh, that's great. No,
Right.
because it's all inside jokes. It's all stuff. A lot of those guys aren't good enough to be able to be honest with themselves. And if you want to be liked in this business, then you're in the wrong business.
Right.
Okay? I've had plenty of players step to me, yell at me, coaches, all kinds of stuff. I'll give you the best example. And to this day, this is what fuels me to being who I am.
Right.
Because I know it's about the real and being honest. So I was in Cincinnati, and the players started complaining about Lou Pinella. He was the manager. Okay. Lou was a fiery,
Pinella,
sweet
dude.
Lou.
Wow.
Right.
Lou
Sweet
Pinella.
Lou. Sweet Lou.
And Lou was a fiery player. He played for the Yankees. He was a rookie of the year for the Kansas City Royals.
He managed for the Yankees.
Yeah,
for
he
too, right?
Yeah, he sure did.
He did.
And so we're in Cincinnati, and the Reds had won the World Series the year before, in 1990, and then I came in 91. So they were scuffling things, and the players were started telling me to look for certain things, that they weren't having fun, Lou's too worked up, too whatever. So I'm looking at these things. So I decide, okay, this is worth writing a story. I got 3 different sources, people telling me what's going on. So I write this story about how the players weren't having fun with Lou and whatever. And none of the players wanted to put their name to it, like the stuff. And I'm like, as a reporter, it's okay. I'll take the hit because it's worth doing a story because the information's that good. Yeah. Okay? So I write the story. We're in St. Louis for a day game. And this is pre-everything. So he got faxed copies to his office in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So I got my back turned. I'm interviewing a player. I remember Stephen Foster, who's a pitcher. So I'm my back. Lou comes running out of his office at high speed. Like I'm not.
Well, it couldn't have been that high. He was a pretty big.
No,
that's a lot of energy coming at you.
No, but a big guy. He's like,
a lot of energy at once.
I want to say he's 6'6" or 6'5". I know he's a big guy, and it's runs up behind me, and at the top of his lungs. It's Sunday morning now. Everybody's getting dressed. The players to get dressed for the game, and he says, "Get your ass in my office right now." Okay. You can hear a mouse urinate on cotton.
Wow.
Okay.
Pin drop.
It was a pin drop. Like everybody stopped and whatever. Now that's your moment of truth.
Right.
As a reporter. If you back down, you lose everybody. Everybody loses respect for you. Everybody says, this dude, right?
Right.
So I turn around slowly to Lou. I grab on my clothes. I look him straight in the face and I say, am I wearing a Reds uniform? I don't work for you. You're not my boss. And I'm not going anywhere. Okay? You want to have a conversation, let's have one. But this screaming and carrying on, I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
He calms down. He says, okay, I'm sorry. Can we go in my office, talk? We talk. He yells at me. I yell at him. I say, Lou, you can be mad at me, but these are your players talking. Right. So read the story again and realize these are your players. They're afraid to say this to you, but these are your players. Fast forward about 3 weeks, a month. We're in Cincinnati after a game. And this is where I have the utmost respect for Lou Pinella to this day. In front of all my peers, all the writers and broadcasters in Cincinnati, Lou out of nowhere goes, you remember that column that Rob wrote 3 weeks ago? He was right. I need to change. I can't manage the way I used to manage. That's the way they used to manage when I was a player, but times have changed. You got to know how to deal with people on an individual basis. You can't manage everybody the same way. Some guys need a hug. Some guys need a kick in the butt. And he did that in front of all my peers after he, tried to embarrass me in front of all the players in the locker room, in the clubhouse. So I always had a lot of respect. And it was at that moment I realized that truth always wins out, even if it hurts people, in the meantime, that ultimately people, if they're honest with themselves, players, I've had just a million players come to me after their playing careers are over and say, I know I was a dick when I was a player or whatever. I was too close to it. I didn't. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like I get it. You're on a
in
team.
This day and age, with everything going on with social media, it's got to be crazy because everybody sits there and just bags on these guys.
Yeah, I'm sure, like guys, it's tough because of that. But I think if you really weed out, and I think the guys who really know, the people who are just because you have a blog or podcast, whatever, everybody's not trained.
Right.
And I think you got to understand that you got to be careful not to lump everybody in the same boat.
Right.
And I think that's where people get in trouble. But I think if you really get to know people, and the biggest thing is just stay away from the cheap shots. I think if you do stay away from the cheap shots and give people honest criticism about the game, I tell people all the time, if I rip you it's not about you being a dad or a husband or you know what I mean, or how
in the sport.
This is about what you're doing. This is about your job. That's the only thing that I'm really critiquing.
There's a boundary you can't cross there, right?
Right. So I've had some crazy. I mean, when I was younger, I was a little crazy. So
That's a great story you talked about, Pinella.
Wow.
I
gonna
can't
ask,
believe
too.
what you
I
said.
mean,
But I want to
jeez.
ask you something real quick. You said you're on the voting committee for the Hall of Fame, right? Do you think Pete Rose should be in? No, you don't, huh?
No, Pete Rose blew it. And I'm going to tell you why. He blew it. Pete Rose would be in the Hall of Fame right now if he would have admitted from day one
That he did it.
that he did it.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you said about his honesty. What you just
Honesty.
said.
Say I made a mistake. Never meant to hurt baseball. I'm going to go to Gamblers Anonymous, right? And whatever, get help. I love baseball. I never meant to do it. The baseball front office, they had all the betting slips, all of his. They had an overwhelming. You think they want to keep their all-time hit leader out of the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely
No, they
not.
don't. They don't.
Well, I've heard a lot of stories because I love horse racing and I bet a lot and I have fun with it. And I have fun with it and I enjoy the sport. And I heard there was a guy I met years ago. He was showing me Pete Rose's guy used to bet the system. And he goes, he still does. So because he used to hang out at Sicily, which is 818. You know, because I live in that neighborhood. You know, I've seen you before. You might have seen me.
Right.
You know exactly where I'm talking about.
Right.
And he goes, they used to sit there every Friday, and Pete would get his picks and go. You know? It wasn't like he was stopping.
He had during when football season would start.
Yeah.
He would have John Franco, who was in the bullpen,
John Franco
the
was,
lefty.
He played for the Mets too.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell Lou the football scores during the game.
Keeping them up to date.
I mean, so I think Pete made a big mistake that had he come clean, because if you remember when baseball had the Mount Rushmore, remember four players from every team? This was at the All-Star game about, 8 or 10 years ago, and it was in Cincinnati. And they allowed Pete Rose to take part in that. Now, that was bending. They were trying to...
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he
Took over headlines for a while.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be there at all, and they allowed him because there's no way you could have a Reds Mount Rushmore and Pete Rose not be included. So he was there. They let him be a part of the ceremony, and then he came out with a book saying, "Yeah, I did it," and this like right after that, and it was like, "What are you doing to make money?" You know what I mean? And here's the best Pete Rose is. When Pete Rose's son made it to the major leagues, this is true, and you could go YouTube it, follow it, and he's being interviewed by a reporter about his son making it to the major leagues in his first at bat, and Pete Rose out of his own mouth goes, "I bet you he gets a hit." He could help himself. He
needed that. He had to get it out of the system for sure.
You couldn't even make that up.
You had at least 1,000 on it somewhere, right?
He said, "I bet you he gets a hit."
Oh man,
Rob, I gotta ask you, man. You know your boy Skip is in the headlines right now, man. What do you think of that? I personally, we discussed this on the podcast. We thought that the people took stuff out of context, but track records and personal beliefs, people think different. So clear this up for us a little bit, man. What's your opinion? You're good friends with him.
how do you feel?
I just think that you got to be so careful when you put out any kind of tweet, especially in the sensitive moment.
Right.
Because I think that's what it was. If you really read the tweet, it's not as bad as people have made it out to be, but it came off as insensitive. And I just think that that's a hard battle because at that moment, no one's really thinking about the game. It's about, tomorrow's life and all that. So you see anything, and not only Skip, I mean, we saw who's the player? Bart Scott, who's saying blaming Ty Higgins. You know what I mean? Like people react to that.
Yeah, they do.
And I think that's where you got to be careful. And then there are a lot of people who just don't like Skip anyway. So that was just another reason or another excuse to pile on or whatever. I don't think his intention was not for the kid, not for the player, but it just, at that time, people were very sensitive to that as we all watched this guy fighting for his life. Yeah. So I think in those moments, you always have to think about that. And that's social media is like that because people, you put something out and they don't hear you say it, they don't know what your feelings are, and it could look at, you know this in a text.
Oh, yeah.
You get from a friend or a girl or something, and you're like, what? Like,
right.
and
We
they
talk
might
about
not even,
that all the time. How
We always discuss this, yes.
right? And
Text
it might
is-
not be exactly how they're feeling, and you're like, wait a minute, you disrespected me, and really no, but you can't tell
Intent.
in a text.
I'm not a fan of Skip, but there's he's too arrogant for me. I just don't like where he goes with things, and that's just me. But
I work with him
I do respect his game, though. I mean, he's been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, obviously, he was a newspaper reporter and covered a lot of big events. I mean, he's had an unbelievable, when you talk about watching stuff, because he covered the Dallas Cowboys during their dynasty.
Yes.
He was in Chicago during Michael Jordan's run. He was in San Francisco during Barry Bonds' run. That's a storied career.
And he loves his Cowboys
to
still.
watch
He loves his
to be able to watch all of those guys and have a front row seat. I mean, that's incredible. And
that's what I respect most about him. He's had a front row seat to
some of the greatest players and people who ever played.
And he's wrote 3 books about Jerry Jones,
And that's what I'm saying. People like there's depth there. Like I talk to a lot of, I teach at USC sports journalism, and a lot of students they want to be, they want to be debaters or whatever, which is fine. But that's not your first job. You got to build some credibility. You need to have covered some stuff.
Yep.
Spend some time out there. When you look at some of the guys between, Skip and Stephen A. And I'm not talking about non-athletes,
Right.
Skip, Stephen A. And then when Jamel Hill used to be on First Take with us, and Michael Smith,
Love
Chris
both of them.
Broussard.
I was a big fan of
we
Chris.
had
I
all that.
like Michael Smith. a lot.
Love
All
Chris,
that.
man.
We had a crew.
But you're what you have going on. That's magic.
Man.
I had fun watching the whole Lakers, the top 10, when they came out the top
Right,
75.
top 7,
When
right.
they came out with the top 75 list.
Right.
And I was like, top 75? I'm like,
You
I
can't
never
even-
even seen that before.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, actually.
all
I
over
can't
the
even
place.
watch your guys' podcast before we're going to talk sports because I'm like, they're going to force my opinion.
Right. No, you don't want to do that. I know what you mean, right. Yeah, the podcast
So good,
and Chris and I have known each other for over 25 years.
Love it.
It's funny, I met Chris and Stephen A. both at the same National Association of Black Journalists convention in 1992.
Wow.
By that time, I was in Cincinnati covering baseball. So at that time, quote, I was a big deal covering Major League Baseball and being under 30 years old.
Right.
So I met those guys, and they were just starting their careers. They're a little younger than me. And the Stephen A. story is probably my favorite. There's 2. So I met him there.
I can't wait.
and a buddy of mine, Anthony Neely, we worked together at the Cincinnati Enquirer. And I swear to you, I'm sitting at a table, and the convention was in Detroit. The NABJ convention was in Detroit. And Anthony walks over with Steve by the arm, and he brings him to my table. He says, hey, this guy wants to be a sports writer. And I said, I got the perfect guy to introduce you to. And so I look up, and he says, this is Steve Smith from Queens. And I said, oh, okay, Steve, whatever. And we talked or whatever. And then Steve was covering high schools on his own dime for free on the weekends. He worked at a small paper in North Carolina. They wouldn't let him do sports. He was like a agate clerk doing other stuff, but they wouldn't let him write for the paper unless it was on the weekend, and he did it for free. So he used to send me his clips, and I would mark them up and say, okay, you need to do this, improve, put them back in the same envelope that he sent them to me, turn it over. And I would read this when I was on flights, covering the red. So I had time, you have time, you're flying around.
Yeah.
So I would critique him. That's how I got into being a mentor. And so he calls me up one day. I'm in Cincinnati. He says, okay, I'm done. I said, what do you mean you're done? He goes, I'm quitting the business. I can't do this anymore. They won't give me an opportunity here. And I'm going to go work for Wachovia Bank. And I have an application, and I'm going to fill it out. and I'm gonna go work. Can you imagine him yelling at
I
bank
just can't
customers?
imagine his voice
Like
right now when you're saying
you said
this.
that, I'm
That's
like,
what I can imagine.
bank teller.
Right, as a
And I-
bank
but
teller.
I'm imagining when he's talking to if he's yelling.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And still making up words as he goes.
Could you imagine?
So I'm like, Steve, you're not doing that. And Steve will tell you this story. This is a true story, and this is no cell phones. Call me on my house phone. Where this is,
Right.
this is like, I don't know, 92, 92 or something. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to work for Wachovia Bank. You can't let one newspaper determine your life and your career because they don't see your talent. I'm reading your clips all the time. You have talent. I'm telling you. If you didn't have talent, I would tell you to fill the application out if I really didn't believe you could make it.
Right.
So I said, I want to hear you rip up the application over the phone. And he rips it up. And then he winds up moving back to New York, and I knew the sports editor there and had a conversation, and Steve met him, and he got hired at the Daily News in New York as a high school writer. But that's really, that moment was that moment. And Steve, there's a video about me being a mentor to some people in the business, and it's, I'm just proud. It's not me. I really say this because people have talent. I didn't do anything. They have talent. All I do is like show them the way or give them encouragement, but they have talent. Mark Spears I met when Mark was still in college. I could go on. I met Jamel Hill when she was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
I've known her since she was 16 years old. There's a guy, Darren Haynes, who used to be an anchor for ESPN. He's a big sportscaster in Washington, D.C. Darren had never been on television. I had a local show in Detroit called Sports Rap, or Sports and Hip Hop Music. This is 20-some-odd years ago.
You know
Tell
that,
him, bro.
yeah.
Right?
That's up your alley.
And Darren had never been on television, and I let him do stuff on the show, and I could still, the look on his face, he was like, I said, okay, next week you'll go out with our producer Hamisi Robinson, and we'll go have you do a story at the Pistons game. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, we're going to teach you our beer. Yes. He goes, at the Pistons? Yes. I said, how are you going to learn how to do it unless we send you out there to do stories?
Right.
This dude is I don't know, 10-time Emmy winner on television.
Yes.
But he had never been on television until I put him on my show. So I just nudge and help, but he's talented. He's unbelievable. Darren Haynes is his name. You've probably seen him on ESPN. But anyway,
Definitely have seen him on
yeah. But that's where
it's amazing. Our jaws are like
that's what I feel like that like I'm here for.
Right.
To help people along, to mentor, and again teach.
Well, I know you've done a lot for him.
Yeah, that's my man.
Yeah, and I know you've done a lot for Pete. You know, he throws a lot of inspirational messages out, and you know that's great. That's great to hear that you inspire people, and I know you've done a lot for him. So you know, we say, dude, it's been great having you on this.
Nah, I appreciate it.
I could talk to you all day about shit. I mean, you know, I know we don't have that much time left, but there's one question I had to ask you.
Let's get it.
Oh man, we got a couple questions.
Yeah,
let's go.
For
Real
Rob,
quick.
for sure.
What do you think the NFL is going to fix their schedule? The Thursday night game has got to go because. But don't you think it's a contradiction about being the player safeties?
It doesn't matter. They just want the money.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you, it's not going away. Yeah. In fact, they're going to add another game and take away another preseason game because the preseason games are local and don't make any money. And if they could feed those to a network, or it's a cash cow. And they're going to ultimately, because the players aren't strong enough. And you know, I don't know if you saw this video. There was a round table in Cleveland, and there was a guy criticizing like how the players don't have the right health care and treatment and all that by the league. And this was all because of the Hamlin thing, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it dropped from 20,000 to 4, right?
Right.
It used to be the disability used to be 20,000 and then went to 4,000.
But my only argument and his case and everything he lays out is honest.
Yeah.
But the players are the ones to blame. These are all negotiated in the CBA.
It's good till like 2030, right?
Okay, because baseball and NBA have all that stuff because they've fought for it and they've negotiated with the owners. The NFL Players Union is extremely weak. and those players, for whatever reason, they fought for less practice and no weed test. Like, those are the things that they fought for rather than
getting
what Lance brought
compensation
up,
when
too.
something like happened would just
Yeah,
happen.
that's exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I
like,
get it.
Like
I
you,
get it.
like the owners aren't going to give you
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
You have to fight for it, and that's what. Until the players in the NFL are ready to stop the Super Bowl or stop the playoffs, okay? When the NBA players went to Adam Silver and said, as long as Donald Sterling's an owner, we won't play the playoffs. What happened? Donald Sterling lost his team like that.
Immediately.
As he should have.
Okay? When the baseball players stopped the World Series after 110 years of World Series,
Yes.
baseball players are the strongest union, but you got to be willing to give up and sacrifice. Nobody's going to give you anything without a struggle or without a sacrifice. So NFL players refuse to bond together and stand up to the owners. All it takes, Colin Kaepernick would have never been thrown out of the league if all the players said, if he doesn't play, if he's not on the team, we're not playing.
So true.
How long do you think they would have stood together to keep Colin Kaepernick out if that league stopped making money? It would have happened overnight.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's that.
Right.
Stronger in numbers,
I mean-
man. Stronger in numbers.
But do you think they'll have 2 bye weeks at least?
I don't know about that. I don't know how much they can keep pushing it, but they're not going to. It's not going to go away because the money's
Because
too
it
big.
really pisses me off.
No, it's terrible.
It's
the product's
horrible.
bad.
Yeah.
Thursday
and
night
it's too
football.
much.
Thursday night's bad.
Right, it's bad. I agree with you, but I'm just saying, once you open that door and they're used to making money, you see all they're doing is printing money.
That's
Yeah,
it.
That's all they're doing.
okay.
Definitely.
So I got a question.
Yes.
Give me a sports quote that you wish you could take back from national television about a player.
A sports quote I can
nice.
take back.
So something that Rob
Something that
Parker
you
said that he.
That made you eat crow later. That
I'm
you wish
sure
you could
this
take
man
back.
doesn't regret much.
Let's see. Let's see. Maybe this was a little too. Maybe this was a little too hard on LeBron. Okay, I'll give you one.
Okay.
I did say that he came to the Lakers to be a 6'9" Kevin Hart. I think that's
And I'm not mad at you at all about that. So
I
He's saying he's being an
remember.
actor, 6'9".
I love that.
Yes.
Michael.
I just ran to Kevin Hart too the other day.
I think that's true. I think that was hard. Okay.
You put Skip onto that. I know you did because that was that. You said Kevin Hart before he said Michael
I
B. Jordan.
said it on the
I
show.
know.
Yeah,
It's
you
funny.
set him up for all
You
that.
did set him up for all that. No, that's funny, man. All right, so we're right here, guys. I want to kind of end it like this. If we're gonna slide in that, if you guys, you got one more pressing question for?
Nah,
I'm going to ask him something off camera, but other than that, we're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And we'll do another one.
Oh, that sounds good to me,
That would
man.
be so
No,
awesome,
that'd be
man.
awesome.
That was kind of in my soliloquy at the end here. We kind of want to hit you with like a Matt Barnes, Steve Jack type of thing, man. You know, like somebody that you know that you could help us out, a guest that we could come on that maybe enjoy the podcast, that we could, link in and further move forward with this whole thing. Somebody you know
Sure.
personally,
Okay.
that'd be awesome, man. You know,
We're gonna definitely work some stuff
We'll work
out.
something out.
stuff
As
out.
always.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. We could do that.
Yeah, that
I
would
could
be
sit
awesome.
here and
man.
talk to him all day.
I mean,
Man.
oh man,
I know the
That means I'm
compadres at
old.
home can listen to this all day too.
Stop, man. You know how it is. You got
I
the
got
gift of
15
gab
more
and know what
questions
he's
for
talking
Rob
about.
Parker.
Just do it. You know?
Man,
Hey, man.
the world
I
wants to
appreciate
know.
it. Thank you.
Man, we appreciate
Man,
you.
we
man,
appreciate
so
it.
we
much.
appreciate
This is great.
appreciate you here. We appreciate you at home, compadres, and like that. Make sure y'all follow us at COMPODRES on the YouTube. Not just YouTube. Listen to our Spotify's, iHeart, and as well as Joe's DMs.
Yeah.
Get back in
Make
those
sure it's
things.
that
Duck and dive back in Joe's DMs.
Make sure it's that Rizot and the Hizot.
All right, man. Make sure you get the right DMs because I don't think he's been getting anything the last couple of weeks. He's been kind of
nice, actually.
blushing.
They hit everybody else up, not me.
They do.
He's been blushing.
Real quick, Rob, anything that you want to shout out? Anything Instagram, social medias? Anything
Yes,
you got
please.
going that
I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram, Rob Parker FSR, and I know you've seen the. I've done a little stand up too.
Everything.
I I was gonna get to that.
Hey, when you do that, let us know. I'll come support you all day.
We've already,
We'll do that, and I just talk about life and
of course
stories, and one of my big things is I talk about the Golden Girls cruise. I went on a Golden. I'm like, that's one of my favorite shows of all time.
A lot of people commented on that.
That was funny.
The writing is so good.
It is.
And so I went. I claim I'm the only black man who went on the Golden Girls cruise, which was awesome. But the best part about going on the Golden Girls cruise is that you don't have to worry about getting anybody pregnant.
Oh man. I wish I would have known that.
Okay.
Man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I love that. It's just something about stepping out of your lane. Like I've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
And Chris Broussard is I'm always making jokes on the radio show, and if you listen to our podcast, and so he's the one who said, you think you're so funny. Why don't you get up on stage or whatever? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'm not afraid to get up on stage, whatever. And so I went, and my debut was at the Comedy Store, Hollywood. In the Belly Room, sold out crowd, and it was amazing. And I do a little sports. I talk about television. I talk about the Golden Girls cruise. So I get up there, and my first thing is I was talking about how LA has turned into a sports town. Like the Lakers won a championship. The Dodgers won a championship all recently. And then, of course, the Rams won a championship. Right. But I don't think that the Rams championship took hold of L.A. like people thought it might. You know what I mean? They had a parade. And, people didn't show up. It really wasn't that big. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but the parade was so small that I heard a woman in the crowd say, "Is it in?"
Hey, it's still Raider Town, man. It really is. But that's funny what he said. I still think that's great, man.
That's hilarious.
All right, that's it.
I would love to see you stand
Man,
up,
compadres,
man.
we can't say enough to you guys at home. Please tune in for this awesome action-packed episode. And like that, compadres, we're gone.
We're gone.
I need all the wins.